Welcome back to the FRNS podcast. I'm your host, Luna Leon, and our show today is about the stunning surprise at Cannes, as acclaimed director James Gray makes an unexpected comeback with Paper Tiger. So James Gray just got added to the Cannes competition lineup, and the way it happened tells you almost as much about the state of the film industry as the film itself probably will. Here's what we know. Gray's new crime thriller, Paper Tiger, starring Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, and Miles Teller, is officially in the Palme d'Or competition. This after being conspicuously absent from the initial lineup announcement a couple of weeks ago, when festival chief Thierry Frémaux basically winked at the camera and said there was one more film he hoped to include, but contractual matters needed to be resolved. He even went out of his way to specify it wasn't fake suspense, just business that hadn't been buttoned up, which is, of course, exactly what someone generating suspense would say. And now here we are. Paper Tiger is in, Neon has North American rights, and the festival can exhale. Let's talk about why this matters beyond the obvious. First, the film itself. Frémaux has seen it, and he described it in terms that should make any James Gray fan sit up a little straighter. He called it wonderful, very James Gray, very indie, and then, and this is the part that got me, he compared it to Little Odessa. That's Gray's debut. The raw, stripped-down crime film he made in the mid-90s, before the bigger budgets, before Ad Astra, before The Lost City of Z. So when the head of Cannes tells you a new Gray film feels like a return to that energy, that's not throwaway flattery. That's a specific creative signal. Brothers. The American dream curdling. Russian organized crime. New York. Plot details are thin, but the shape is clear. The cast is doing a lot of heavy lifting on the anticipation side. Driver and Johansson haven't worked together since Marriage Story, which earned them both Oscar nominations and just lodged itself in the culture. Reuniting them in a Gray film, a very different animal, creates a built-in award season narrative before anyone's seen a frame. Add Miles Teller, and multiple outlets are calling this the starriest ensemble at Cannes this year. Though I gently note that the rest of the competition includes Sebastian Stan, Sandra Huller, Isabelle Huppert, Catherine Deneuve, and Javier Bardem, so starriest is doing some real work in that sentence. But the point stands. People will be watching. Now here's where it gets more interesting and a little more complicated, the delayed announcement. Frémaux was transparent that contractual issues were the holdup, and that tracks. Festival premieres at this level involve distribution deals, territory rights, marketing windows, the whole apparatus. Neon locking down North American rights appears to have been part of what needed to close before the official announcement. On the French side, S&D is handling distribution, no release date set. So the delay wasn't drama, it was paperwork. But it also created a 2-week window where everyone in the industry knew the film was coming and had to wait for confirmation, which is its own kind of theater. And that brings us to the bigger picture, which is what Cannes looks like this year, and what Paper Tiger being added actually means in context. Because here's the thing, James Gray is now one of only 2 American filmmakers in the entire Palme d'Or competition. The other is Ira Sachs, competing with The Man I Love, a musical fantasy starring Rami Malek about the AIDS crisis in New York. 2 Americans, that's it. Compare that to recent editions with Tom Cruise premiering a Mission Impossible and Spike Lee in competition. The shift is significant, and Frémaux has been remarkably candid about it. He described what he called a small geographical realignment, saying Europe is strong right now, perhaps because the United States is a little less so. He noted that studio films are less present, that the studios themselves are less visible. He was careful to say this isn't necessarily permanent. He reminded people Paramount and Cruise were there not long ago, but the current reality is clear. The kind of cinema that used to bring American studios to Cannes is simply being made less often. Meanwhile, the European side of the lineup is stacked. An unprecedented number of French-language films are in competition, including 3 directed by filmmakers from other countries entirely. Asghar Farhadi, Laszlo Nemes, and Ryusuke Hamaguchi all made French-language work this year. Frémaux credited France's stable, strong industry and its willingness to support foreign cinema, calling it a powerful ecosystem. And he's not wrong. When international auteurs are making their films in French, with French financing, that tells you where the infrastructure for this kind of filmmaking actually lives right now. It's not in Los Angeles, which makes Gray's inclusion feel even more pointed. Here's an American filmmaker deeply respected in France, with a long Cannes history. He's premiered 5 films there, served on the jury, making what sounds like a scrappy, indie-spirited crime film that Frommo is essentially vouching for as a return to form. In a year where American cinema's presence has shrunk dramatically, Gray is one of the few people holding that ground. And he's doing it not with a studio picture, not with a franchise play, but with something that apparently feels handmade. That matters. Let's talk about Neon for a second, because their position in all of this is kind of staggering. With Paper Tiger, they now have 6 films in the Palme d'Or competition. 6! And this is a company that has won the last 6 consecutive Palme d'Or. I want to say that again because it sounds made up. 6 in a row. Whatever you think about the consolidation of prestige distribution, Neon has essentially cornered the market on the kind of cinema that wins at Cannes. 6 contenders in a single year isn't just a good slate. It's a structural advantage that raises real questions about whether any other independent distributor can compete at this level. They're not just picking winners, they're picking the field. Now, things we don't know. No runtime. No detailed plot beyond the basic premise. No public word from Gray, Driver, Johansson, or Teller. The specifics of the contractual delay remain vague. And the post-production timeline is interesting. Filming was reportedly happening in New York last summer, which means the turnaround to a festival-ready cut is tight. Frommo himself acknowledged that finishing a film isn't something that happens at the snap of your fingers, especially for a filmmaker like Gray. So there's a version of this story where the film was genuinely coming down to the wire, and a version where the business side just took longer than the creative side. We don't know which. And honestly, as an AI talking to you about this, I can read every trade report filed in the last month in about 4 seconds, and I still can't tell you which one it is. The humans involved aren't saying. But here's what I keep coming back to. There's something almost poetic about the fact that Paper Tiger is a story about the American dream going sideways, arriving at a festival that is itself reckoning with America's diminished role in the global film landscape. Gray making a film about brothers chasing something that turns out to be corrupted, premiering it at a festival where American cinema used to be dominant and now barely registers. That's not intentional symbolism, but it rhymes. Park Chan-wook is presiding over the jury this year, which is its own fascinating variable. His sensibility, precise, genre-literate, deeply attuned to craft, feels well-suited to evaluating exactly what Frommo is describing. Whether Paper Tiger connects with that jury or not, its presence in competition feels earned. So, James Gray making a film the head of Cannes compares to his raw early work, starring 2 of the most interesting actors of their generation, distributed by the company running the table at this festival, in a year where American cinema has all but vanished from the competition. The film may deliver on all that, or it may not. We find out in May. But the setup is as good as the setup gets. Thank you for listening to FRNS with Luna Leon. If you liked our podcast, please show us your support by tapping the follow button and rating it 5 stars. That's a wrap!
Grab News. Thomas.